Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the weekly series where I get to chat with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections. Finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Okie dokie then, it's another week, it's another episode, and it's another guest. And who is the guest on this week's episode, I hear you will ask? Ooh, well, why don't we all find out? Sit yourselves down, put your feet up, and make yourselves comfortable. And let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Righty ho then, another week, another episode, and another fantastic collection. Absolutely awesome. And what I'm loving about this collection is all the different displays and photos that were taken. In my opinion, that really enhances the figures and the display. And it's a pleasure to welcome to the channel for the very first time, Mr. Scott Whitehouse. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, Stu. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you were saying in agreement, this is the first time you've ever done something like this, a recording on YouTube. So I just want to say a massive thank you for taking part in this series and coming on the channel. It's absolutely awesome to chat to you, mate. Thank you so much.
Nobody's a little bit nervous, but this is hopefully this is going to be good. So
yeah, no worries. Look, listen, it's just two guys talking about toys and reminiscing about old times. So honestly, you've got no need to worry. Anyhow, you were saying you know a little bit about the series. So I've got 10 questions for you, all about you and your collection. One time roughly about an hour. If we go over, not to worry. So when you're ready, sir, we'll crack on.
Brilliant. Yeah, let's go for it.
Absolutely. Cool stuff. Right. What toy lines were you into as a kid? And what memories do you have of those toy lines?
Well, I was born 1974, so like a lot of kids around that time, I was sort of playing with toy soldiers and toy cars, that kind of thing. I remember a
Yeah.
lot of toy guns around the house, playing army, cowboys and Indians, the Britain's toy soldiers, and cowboys and Indians. I remember having all of those and growing up with that. But then obviously along came Star Wars in the late
Yeah.
70s, and that sort of changed everything. So Star Wars was the thing, you know. I've still got my original sort of handful of figures from the late 70s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is absolutely amazing. You know, bitten and chewed, and spent time in the rockery, things like that. But
Yeah.
you know, it's fantastic to have those. So that was the line that I really collected all
Yeah.
the way through, sort of post Return of the Jedi. I know, had as much of it as I could. After Star Wars, I think, you know, Star Wars sort of disappeared, didn't it? And Transformers came along for me, so I
Yeah.
collected Transformers for a while, a year or so, I think, and picked up a few of my favourites. There's like the Generation One stuff. Really is my kind of stuff with Transformers. I got into Action Force for a little while.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
about a year. I've got none of that left. I come across the odd gun occasionally in
Yeah.
amongst my vintage Star Wars stuff, but that's about
Yeah.
all that's left of my Action Force. I remember that got sold, you know, and it was a big job lot. My dad put it in the paper and sold it all for 20 quid.
Oh, blimey.
And that seemed brilliant for me at the time. Probably went and spent
Yeah.
on beer or something, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
now
I mean, how lucky were we as kids back in you know, the late 70s, early 80s with the toy lines that we had to choose from? I mean, we had some big stuff, didn't we? We had Star Wars, like you say, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Master of the Universe, Thundercats. I mean, we were spoiled for choice, weren't we? Mask as well come into play towards, you know, in the middle of the 80s.
absolutely, yeah. I had one mask toy. I had the what was it, Piranha, the motorbike and sidecar with Sly Rax, and
Yeah.
that's the only one I ever had. I
Oh,
think
wow.
I was focusing on one or the other, but yeah, I mean, because those lines are still with us now, aren't they? In one
Yeah.
form or another, either retro versions of them, or you know, the Motu Origins stuff is there now. So people are still collecting those lines. We were lucky to be there at the start of them. Absolutely amazing, really, to have been there at the start of Star Wars and to have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The question for you, Scott, as well. Do you think if it wasn't for our generation, do you think IP such as Star Wars, Motu, Transformers, all those toys that Hasbro and other toy manufacturers are putting out for our generation, do you think if it wasn't for us that those toy lines would no longer exist?
I don't think they'd exist in the form that they do now. I think a lot of it is aimed at the nostalgia market. So guys our age, you know,
Yeah.
mid-40s into 50s sort of age group, we're spending most of the money on things like the vintage collection, it seems, and some of the, you know, the Motu Origins and such like. I can't get my grandsons into collecting at all. They're not interested. They'll watch Star Wars, they'll watch Indiana Jones, they'll watch the A-Team, and they'll watch the old Master of the Universe cartoon with me, but they're not interested in owning toys. I mean, they've already, you know, they're 9 and 10 almost, and they've grown out.
Wow. I mean, crikey. I mean, when we were that age, Scott, weren't we? It was like very much into Star Wars. I mean, it's all we wanted to do was just play with our action
Yeah,
figures, whether it would be like Star Wars or G.I. Joe. Do you know what I mean? It's funny
absolutely.
how times change, isn't it?
It was unthinkable to do anything
Yeah.
else. I mean, I had an Amstrad, you know, with put the cassette in, and you know, and that was probably about 10 when I had that, or maybe 11, and so I did play computer games, but that was a secondary to playing with toys. I was still playing with toys, you know. That was all I wanted to do, all I could imagine doing, really. But now there's so many other things, it seems. I think the toy companies really seem clued up to that they've got that there's a generation at the moment who are looking back.
Yeah.
You know, face it, that's what a lot of what
Well,
you know,
they definitely know how to hit the sweet spot, don't they? In some circumstances. I mean, look,
yeah,
they're not going to please everybody, are they? These toy companies, but I mean, on the whole, they're not doing that bad a job because people are spending money, they're making money, and we're buying their products, aren't we? At the end of the day, so
absolutely. And although there's a lot of people who collect the vintage collection who say there's not enough OT, and I probably would agree with that to some extent when you
yeah,
see another repaint of a Mandalorian or something, but it's still. I mean, the vintage collection is fantastic at the moment. You know, the quality and the detail that you're getting with the figures. So I find that I'm buying the new new stuff as well. Even, you know, I didn't particularly enjoy the Book of Boba Fett. Didn't think it was very good, but I'm still, the figures from it have been fantastic. So
Yeah.
they're still sort of hooking us in. But I don't know how many new people are coming into it. I mean, they are, but you hear that there's more people, more younger people will buy the Black Series, for instance. Is what I've understood anyway. Whereas the big collection is aimed. I mean, the packaging. I mean, I don't keep many on card, but I keep a few, and just the look of that card back. Even when you get it and you know, I very carefully now cut the bubble off. And keep the card.
I mean, isn't it funny? Back as a kid, you know, we couldn't wait to rip our figures off the cards and just throw the cards away, or throw the bubbles away. We didn't really care too much about the packaging. As a kid, I mean, I remember seeing like all the Motu packaging, the Star Wars packaging, G.I. Joe Transformers. It's enticing, isn't it? Because you walk into a store and you think, wow, look at this. So, I mean, for me, the packaging in the day was important to bring the kids in, but it wasn't as important to keep that packaging at that time. I mean, were you the same?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've got bizarrely, I've got my prune face card back, original.
Oh, wow.
And it's got the name pill cut out. I must have sent that off probably to get the Emperor, the Num or something like that. But that's all I've got of the original packaging. I've actually kept more Transformers packaging. I've cut the illustrations off and cut the you know, the graph from the back that you put the red piece of plastic over. I've kept some of those, and they're stuck in an old diary, like a 1984 diary or something.
Awesome.
Sort of 40 years ago. And so I kept more of that. But I do remember I had the Attack box for a long time, because I think everything used to get piled into that at the end of the day after I finished playing. So that hung around probably till it fell apart. But no, nothing else. But I was really pleased when I found that prune face card, though. It was quite exciting to sort of look at that and think, wow, that's sort of, I've had that.
How cool is it to find stuff that you had as a kid in your collection? It must be an awesome feeling.
It's absolutely amazing. I went up in the roof sometime last year, was rummaging through some stuff. I was going through this bag of toy soldiers, like little 1:72 scale soldiers, rummaging in there, and I came across the Rancor Keeper.
Wow!
I was so thrilled. I thought I must have him somewhere, because I'd got his head, and I'd got his gaffy stick was amongst my, you know, the original accessories. But I thought, well, where is he? Because unfortunately, I did get rid of, or was kind of coerced into donating some stuff to charity.
Oh, okay.
Around the mid-80s, like, you're not playing with Star Wars anymore, so get rid of some of it.
Yeah.
So poor old Jabba the Hutt, the Rancor, and a few other things got donated, which I've regretted ever since. And sometimes I think that might have been the trigger to me then never throwing anything else away in my life.
Fair enough. Fun fact about the Rancor Keeper. If you get a cap and put it on the Rancor Keeper, it looks like Tim from Bosk's Bounty. That's not according to me. That's according to Nick from Only One Kenobi. So
I saw that. I thought it was so funny. It does, doesn't it?
Awesome. Yeah. What about Saturday mornings and TV time for you back in the day? You know, did you get engrossed in things like Action Force or G.I. Joe, Transformers, the Motu cartoons? I mean, how important was Saturday morning viewing for you as a kid?
I used to love the Master of the Universe cartoon. Always watch that. And I stick it on now. I said I put it on for the grandsons now, and they love it. And they'll run around for a while shouting "By the power of Grayskull" and things like that. It's brilliant. Transformers. I remember they used to show it on breakfast television, like in little clips, didn't they? Or little a few minutes at a time or something.
Yeah.
I remember that. Coming home after school, and you know, it was, what was it? Ulysses and Visionary.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, Ulysses. Wow.
Ewoks and droids, and you know, all of that. But yeah, I was obviously watching Saturday morning TV. I mean, I'm a bit young for. I vaguely remember Tiswas, but only very vaguely. I think probably like Mr. Pie and things in that. But whatever the BBC had got on, was it Going Live? That's probably a little.
I think so. Yeah, something like that, wasn't it? Then you had Wackaday Club, didn't you? Wide Awake Club, or whatever it was.
The Saturday Swap Shop. I can't quite
Swap
place.
Shop. Yeah, I think that was Noel Evans, wasn't it? Saturday. Yeah.
Can't quite place them when they were on, sort of in the timeline, but I remember it on something on ITV. They used to do. It used to come from. I don't know. It was like some crazy stuff going on in a house somewhere in Kent. It used to be on a Saturday morning, but on
number
ITV.
73.
Yeah.
Was it number 73?
It could be. Yeah. It was all based around a house. Yeah. So probably.
Yeah. I don't know. It might have been. I remember number 73. I don't know whether that's what you're actually you're talking about there, but awesome stuff. So what was your favorite toy line and why? Or did it sort of like change as you got older? It went from one thing to another as you got older.
I think it was. I mean, it was definitely Star Wars. I think probably I went into Transformers because I guess it was being heavily marketed. The cartoon was on, and Star Wars as a franchise, as a toy line, was kind of dying. But Star
Yeah.
Wars, because I always went back to it. I think I can say now I went back to it again later on in the 80s after I'd finished with Transformers and finished with Action Force. I went back to Star Wars and was rooting around in the old Star Wars stuff. And I went through a little phase of getting a few more pieces from people then. I think people were selling stuff off cheap, and I had always wanted the Slave One, and I managed somehow some sort of playground bargain, or I bought it or swapped something. But I got a Slave One, which was at that point was my grail item.
Is that the one that you sent over in the photo?
Yes, I'm holding
that.
Oh,
one. How cool is that?
Yeah. Still got that one, but I was so
awesome.
desperate. I seem to remember like quite protracted negotiations with this kid.
Yeah,
we were a bit older. I was probably like 13 or 14 at this point, so that was more wanting to have it rather than wanting to play with it. So I think so I think it's got to be Star Wars. I'd still love Transformers. I'd still go back to, and I bought a couple of things in the last year or two. I quite like those reality in red. They call them reality enhanced.
Oh yeah. Robot engineered design or something like that. Yeah. They don't transform today. They just stay in robot mode. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like those because they look just like they did in the cartoon. So I quite like those. In fact, they've just come back into stock and Star Action figures, and they sent me an email. So I'm picking up Megatron and Optimus are coming.
Oh wow.
Soon. So I'm really pleased because I thought
they are cool. The only thing about those toy lines is the fact that they're not to scale. So Bumblebee is the same height as everybody else, which I think is a bit of a shame, really.
No, he looks
Other than that, though, I think that'd have been awesome.
Yeah, first one I got was Soundwave. Soundwave was my all-time favorite. He was my first Transformer. Never ever saw him in the shops again. Just saw that one, picked him up. I think it was birthday money or something like that. So I've always he's always been about. I've always sort of kept him on a shelf, throughout my life, really. And so I picked up the red one last year when I got Bumblebee later in the year, and I put them next to each other. It's like ridiculous.
Bumblebee I know. It's such a shame, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is such a shame.
Do the whole line that they could all interact. So but
yeah.
I guess Optimus and Megatron.
So you said about Star Wars. What was it then that set Star Wars aside for you, and what was your first experience of Star Wars?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's just it's such a magical world. I don't know. I mean, I like Star Trek as well.
Yeah,
but they're two completely different sort of franchises. They kind of do different things. I think the escapism of Star Wars, the mix of fantasy, it's like a fairy tale in space. The design, the sound, the music is just some of the most amazing music made for film ever, I think. And I think that whole combination, I mean, there's such emotion in it. I mean, it's people think of it as a kid's thing, but it's definitely not. It still sticks with me. And I think the toys were just there was such immense world building possibilities with it. I can just remember whiling away hours and hours and hours with my Star Wars toys more than anything else. I think that's one of my disappointments. The Transformers toys were great. They looked great, but you couldn't really play with them a lot. A lot of them, like the planes look fantastic, but you transform it into the robot, it's a pretty ugly statue. It really does.
It doesn't look great, does it?
There's just lots of bits that are going to fall off or break. Whereas Star Wars, as I say, my original Stormtrooper spent a year in the rockery, and he's fine still.
I mean, did it bother you that there were 5p? Oh, well, obviously you because at that time as well, you had the G.I. Joe figures. They had the articulation, the O-rings, and stuff like that. So the articulation was far superior to that of the 5POA of the Star Wars figures. Did that ever really bother you, or were you just happy that you had Star Wars in your collection and you were quite happy to play with it as it was?
I'd say I was just happy. I don't think I realised there was anything better. I think when G.I. Joe came along, I do remember thinking, wow, these guys, their arms bend, their knees bend, you can sit them down properly. I remember being impressed by them, they were more versatile, definitely. But and I love the vintage collection because now that's the best of both. We're sort of getting, we're getting, because, as you kind of imagine them being you know, that was it was our imagination doing that work in the 70s and 80s. But now, you know, now we're doing it and posing them out in dioramas and things instead.
Yeah,
But no,
absolutely. I mean, look, I love the way you set your dioramas up and your photographs. I mean, what kind of got you into that? You know, how did that come about?
well, yeah, not sure really. I think probably it's my way of still playing with them. To be
Yeah,
honest, I think,
yeah,
you know, I rather than just standing them up on the shelf, I sort of try and reenact a scene somehow, or I quite like creating a little diorama that's like in between scenes or at the end of a scene. So I did one recently, and it was the I picked up Pope Snitkin, the guy who drives the second skiff in
yeah,
Return
yeah.
of the Jedi. I got all 4 of the guys from the second skiff that are available. So I did this little diorama, and they're basically arguing, why are we the ones who've got to be second skiff again? Why aren't we dumping the prisoners? And just like kind of something a bit funny to do instead of, you know, just posing them out normally, I suppose. So I
Yeah.
quite like doing that sort of thing with them. But
No,
yeah,
it looks great. I mean, it definitely does add a totally different dynamic to the display and the actual collection itself, you know, because it does. I mean, I love toy photography. I mean, I do another series as well, Toy Photographer Showcase, and I just love
yeah,
the way that people can capture whether it's a Black Series figure or a TVC figure or whatever figure, and they bring it to life within those photographs. And I mean, I just think it's absolutely tremendous what people can do and stuff like that.
I mean, there's some awesome photography out there, isn't there? People using, you know, serious kit, really expensive cameras and
Yeah.
set pyrotechnics and all sorts of stuff. You know, I'm doing it all on my iPhone. I did buy
Yeah, but
myself.
it still looks good though. That's the thing. I
I'm,
mean, you've got some great setups there. You know,
yeah,
don't knock yourself. I think you've done a
I'm,
great job.
yeah, I'm happy with what I'm accomplishing. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy with that. Sometimes more than others, but it's down to lighting, or it's down to whether you can, you know, kind of create a set. You know, the 1024 gets used an awful lot. It's a brilliant
it
thing.
is. Yeah,
I wish they'd give us more like that, because you know, there isn't a lot else that you can do that with. So, you know, I like the summer months because I can get outside and I can do a little bit outside, and you can pose them out in the garden or in, you know, by a tree or something. And you know, that was
yeah,
great last year for Return of the Jedi with the Scout Walker and the bunker and stuff like that. You know, you can
yeah.
do
Well,
do
so
fun
awesome.
stuff.
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
When did you stop playing with your toys and become a collector?
Well, like I said, I'm not sure I ever did really stop playing with them, but as I say, I think it was when I like early mid-teens when I started picking up some Star Wars again, because I wasn't playing with them then, but I wanted
Yeah,
them. You know, I wanted ones I'd missed. At some point, I picked up the Millennium Falcon. It wasn't one I had as a young child. I picked that up from someone. I just can't remember how I acquired that, and that was another one that I really wanted. And so it's not been played with as much. I don't have as many memories of playing with that. So I think
yeah,
that was sort of the beginning. But I always picked stuff up. You know, as I got into Star Trek sort of in my late teens. When Star Trek Next Generation started being shown on British television, and I picked up a few of the Playmates figures from there and the micro
mm,
machines of the ships. Again, you're not playing with them, but you just want to have them. So
yeah,
and you sort of stand them up there, and you know, there's something
mm,
about collecting figures. Ships not so much, but yeah, figures.
yeah,
I got into Lord of the Rings for a while when the Lord of the Rings came out, so I got a bunch of figures from that. They're up on the roof, most of those.
mm.
So yeah, I think the collecting kind of always been there, but
Always been there. Always been
yeah,
there.
but more seriously, and a lot of us would say the same with COVID. I'd usually pick up a few Star Wars figures every year anyway. I bring out my Star Wars traditionally I brought it out every Christmas, and Steph lets me kind of decorate the house a bit with some Star Wars. Christmas, we always call it, it's the Star Wars nativity. So it started
Oh,
off,
okay, yeah, yeah.
we got
Awesome.
this old nativity, we stuck it on the mantelpiece. I stuck a stormtrooper there. That's literally how it began. And now I
Mm,
kind of take over half the lounge with it all through December. So every Christmas I buy a few new figures to refresh it. And long came the Mandalorian, so I wanted some more figures then. And COVID came along, and I started watching. It was Boss Bounty I picked up
yeah,
first, and that Tim was just like a conduit to everything and everyone else, you know. Really, Only One Kenobi, and then along came ZSR, and I started watching yourself as well. And you realise there's a whole collecting community out there, and that kind of makes you feel you're not perhaps as weird as you think you are, and it's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, do it a bit more and to talk about it a bit more. And I've really got into collecting the vintage collection the last sort of 2.5 years now on the back of all.
That's awesome. I just want to jump back and talk about the Star Trek Playmates. I mean, for the size of the franchise Star Trek is, I never felt they did a decent action figure line. I mean, Playmates, the figures weren't great, were they, for Star Trek? I mean, I've got the original bridge crew for the original Enterprise and stuff like that, and I got that for one Christmas, and I threw the box away, and the box was the actual bridge itself, and I'm regretting that. And I saw it in Florida and like a little toy fair that me and Georgie went to back in 2022, and it was in the box, and I was like, oh God, and I wanted it, but I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to get it home. I wouldn't be able to get it in the suitcase, so I had to leave it. But absolutely gutted. But I like Star Trek, and what got me into Star Trek was Generations. So I went to the pictures, I went to see it. I saw the Enterprise D crash. I was like, oh my God, that's an iconic spaceship. What have they done? And then, of course, spoiler alert, Captain Kirk dies. If you've not seen it, a bit late now, isn't it? But so he died. And because of that, I went back and watched the whole of the original Star Trek series. And I just thought, this is just cult classic, isn't it?
Absolutely. I still love it. I can still put on an episode of Star Trek anytime. It's a fantastic show. Well written. Good stories, good characters. I mean, I still love the original series. I used to watch it as a kid with my dad. When it was, I guess, when it came to BBC, probably late 70s or something. It was being repeated.
Yeah.
We used to have to watch it. One week we could watch it in the lounge in colour. The week after, because my mum wouldn't watch it. The week after, we had to watch it in the kitchen in black and white. So I remember that, and my first cinema memory is he took me to see Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which must have been absolutely dreary as hell for like a 4 or 5 year old. But I've got memories of the old cinema in Stafford near where we lived. The red velvet seats, that sort of thing. I've got memories of images from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which he must have taken me.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I liked it.
I could, like I say, I don't know why they never did do a decent like action figure line, because like I say, the Playmates ones were pretty. They weren't great, but for such an iconic show.
Yeah, they don't. They're more like the likenesses are more like the likenesses of sort of 80s Kenner Star Wars figures. They look nothing like really. They are them, but that's all there is. And even more recently, I mean, I think one of my photos, I've got some of they're about 7 or 8 inch ones, the original series ones, like Kirk and Spock and Bones and a Gorn. And the Gorn's good, but can't go wrong. But the likenesses even getting Leonard Nimoy, they're still not the best, really.
No, it is a shame. It is a shame.
Considering what we're getting on a much smaller scale for vintage collection and others.
Yeah. So what toy lines do you currently collect?
It's, for the most part, it's the vintage collection.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. It's the nostalgia, but it's the world building. I love the community around it. As mentioned Tim already, but there's others. Only One Kenobi, the SWTVC guys, John Miko, Bantha Skull. That world out there. I mean, it's serious for them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They were, the guys were talking on the live stream last night. I think Matt was saying, I'm not bothered about what numbers on the back of the card. I mean, I must admit, I'm not bothered about what numbers on the back of the card particularly, but I am bothered about what they're doing. I'm bothered about accuracy and that kind of thing. So I enjoy that side of it as well. Sort of the March Madness is just starting tonight. I think they're announcing the brackets, aren't they? The top 64.
Oh wow! Okay, cool.
Now, I think
of course it's March now, isn't it? Yeah, March Madness. Yeah, that's kicking in. Yeah.
So I like that about it. I've got a couple of Black Series, but that's all. It's not really the right scale. I haven't got the room for it. The ones I bought at full price, and I just feel stupid because they're now both sort of like $6.99 each on
do you know what? That is the most frustrating thing, isn't it? I think a lot of people are falling into that trap where they've gone out and they've bought it straight away because they didn't want to miss out, because at the time, if you missed out, then you'd see it like go for silly money on the secondary market, and you thought, oh crikey. If you're a collector, you want these figures in your collections. I mean, some of them are harder to come by than others, but the annoying thing is after a while you started buying these figures, and then probably a month, 2 months later, you'd see them online or in the stores, and they were like for less money, and you just think why?
Yeah, the reductions in those are just it can't be good for the line. It can't be good for the Black Series line. I mean, I paid something like £28 for Grand Moff Tarkin, and now it's £6.99 on sale. And I think, why did I do that? I didn't realise at the time.
It is annoying, isn't it?
Been in that long.
Do you think they're overpriced to start with?
Oh, massively. Some of them massively overpriced.
Yeah.
The people who do collect them seem to think they're massively overpriced to start with. I wouldn't know, particularly some of the the people. I mean, like the TVC community complain about deluxe figures. I think the same happens in the Black Series, doesn't it? With the larger ones with more accessories in there.
I mean, I'm a big TVC collector. And listen, I've not got a patch on people like Tim and Nick from Only One Kenobi, or the guy at TVC and Bantha Skull and stuff like that. But I do feel that they shouldn't be doing these deluxe figures. They can easily fit those onto a bubble, and onto a card back. It's like the new Jango Fett that they've got coming out.
That's shocking, isn't it?
Why is that a deluxe?
The amount they're charging for that, and they've not put. People have said, well, if they put an alternate backpack in, because he has a different backpack at another point in Attack of the Clones, apparently. I didn't realise that. And at another point, he's got a cloak. If they put those in, at least that would have made a bit of a difference, But he's not deluxe if you've not packed in everything that you could do. He just
that's right.
Some of them have been okay. I think the what's his name, Paz Vizsla with the heavy weapons Mandalorian. He's big. He'd struggle, I think, to get him on a card. I think he'd probably the bubble would drop off if you put him on. But
I guess, yeah.
But, Sabine Wren as well. I mean, I suppose you needed a box to get that helmet in. It was.
Yeah, it weren't great, was it? I mean, I've held off from getting her, but I mean, it annoys me because I really wanted that Jango Fett because I don't have him from the original TVC 1.0. No, I mean, they're going for a lot of money, aren't they? And I thought, well, great, they're redoing him. I'll get him on card back eventually, and but now they've done it deluxe. I'm just like, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
it's just frustrating.
I pre-ordered him because I want him, but
well, likewise. I mean, because I don't have him in the collection, so
but it's at the moment Hasbro are kind of helping me because they're bringing out things that I can pass on. I don't want Finn. I don't want. I'm not going to pay full price for that Cassian Andor. I mean, I've seen some photos recently. People have had it in the States, and the new face does look a lot better than the older version. But I feel confident I can wait to find it on sale, so I'll do that in that case.
But it's annoying that it's annoying that Hasbro are doing those figures because you get like Finn that's coming out on TVC, but you're not going to get many more figures from the sequels. I don't feel.
No.
They've done Cassian Andor, and he's the one from he's the one from Rogue One, isn't he?
Yes.
So they've redone him. But we've not got the full Rebels team, the full Rogue One team anyway. So it makes you wonder, what is the point of them doing those figures unless they've got plans to re-release more figures or do other figures down the line at some point?
You just hope that it means that they are thinking about completing those crews. I mean, we haven't got Baze Malbus, we haven't got Bodhi Rook in the Rogue One team, and
that's it.
They're on this mark. They're bound to. I'm not sure, but they're bound to be on the. They were last year on the March Madness bracket. You hope people are asking for them. Baze especially, people are asking for, and like we're getting Dooku. Count Dooku's coming soon, which I'm really pleased about.
Well, how many years too late is he? I mean, he should have been out there enough pretty much from the start.
People have been waiting. People have been asking for that. I mean, he's been on the top of wish lists and winning fan votes for years. Finally, he's coming. I mean, again, I've seen a video. Someone else, Australia or New Zealand's had it already. It looks fantastic. They're just. It seems it's all down to money. They just don't seem to have money to invest in the line. So releasing some of these older figures, but Finn just seems a really random choice. I'm not
just
sure
seems to be like I don't know. I think that was just like out of, well, from my opinion, it's just like smacks of desperation. That does, because I guarantee he's going to be a peg warmer.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who just are not interested in the sequel trilogy. Full stop. He's not going to go down well. We've not had, since I've been collecting, seriously, there's not been a sequel trilogy figure released. So about sort of 2.5 years. I think there might have been in a wave or two just before I started looking at the next wave. When you start getting serious, you're looking at what's coming in the next wave, aren't you? Waiting for announcements. And just before then, I think there'd been a few, but yeah, there's been nothing in a couple of years, and now they drop in a really old figure. He's from about 2016.
Well, because he was part of the original Black Series line, wasn't he?
Yeah.
The small red and black boxes. Yeah.
I believe they'll have done the face, won't they? But that's about all they'll have done, I think, to change.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
Horrible.
it's worth getting for that, isn't it? Yeah. Unbelievable. Do you have a sentimental or a prized piece within your collection?
Ooh, yes. The AT-AT, my AT-AT is, I absolutely love it to bits.
From your childhood, yeah?
Yeah, my childhood.
How cool. Yeah.
It's missing a couple of pieces. I don't think I'd have ever allowed them to be thrown away. So I think they're somewhere amongst the stuff in the roof. The canopy is the most important. I'm really annoyed about that. But yeah, I suppose it was probably about 1982. I'd been pestering my parents for it, I suspect. And they said, well, if you want it, you've got to save up some pocket money to pay for half of it. And so I saved money all summer so that I could have it for Christmas.
Oh, so how cool.
That stuck with me. And I guess they were teaching me a lesson about the value of things. And I guess that's probably, again, why I've still got the thing and why it's in pretty good condition for the most part.
I mean, what a toy that was back in the day, wasn't it? I mean, I remember getting mine for Christmas one year. I was just like blown away. It was just incredible.
It's just the most incredible thing, and I think I had the snow speeder as well that Christmas. Probably my uncle got me the snow speeder. So
yeah,
you can imagine, sort of like a 7-8-year-old lad, you were the same, playing with that. The scenarios, I'd have it get crashed and they'd be trapped inside and, surrounded, or, all sorts of stuff. And I remember reading one of the Return of the Jedi cartoons, and they did a story where Wedge's co-pilot gets stranded on Hoth after the evacuation. And I used to reenact that using the X-Wing Luke. So he kind of gets by Wampers, and there's other stuff going on, and bounty hunters turn up, stripping the bodies and stripping all the wreckage from the battle. And that was like a story in the cartoon. I absolutely loved that story. So I used to reenact that as well with it. So yeah,
I mean, that is so cool, isn't it? I mean, I love you saying about that, because it just brings back so many memories of what I used to do as a kid with my friend and stuff like that. And we'd sit and read magazines or comics and stuff like that, or we'd watch a TV series, and then we'd just go and integrate it into our playtime as well, and just take it from there and just use our imagination and stuff like that. And I think that was just precious times. I just absolutely loved it back then, those days, and you saying about that, it just brings back so many memories. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and it's just like cardboard boxes became space stations and bases and castles. And I remember my dad had a load of wooden offcuts, and I made myself a skiff with gluing these offcuts on. It's nothing like a skiff really, but I'd got weakwear on it, and
if it worked, it was good enough, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
It worked for me, and it was it was we did so much back then with our imaginations, didn't we?
Yeah, it was quality. I mean, I'm looking at my AT-AT now from the original Kenner line, and it still holds up so well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He's just back there at the moment.
Yeah, it holds up so well.
Awesome.
It's just an absolute awesome looking vehicle.
Yeah.
And I know they've done the legacy version AT-AT as well, which also looks pretty good. But for nostalgia buzz, that's just an absolute beauty, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolute quality.
I'd be in no rush to pick up the legacy one, I think, because I still love that one, and it works with my collection figures. If I use it in a diorama. I did one last year where I took it outside and set it up in the by the trees, and I kind of set up the scene where they captured Luke in Return of the Jedi, and the Imperial takes him out to Vader and hands over the lightsaber, and I kind of did a few shots that kind of emulated that, and the AT-AT, it stood in really well in that scene.
Again, it's just brilliant what you're doing with the photography and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So with your photography, I just want to touch on it quickly. I mean, do you get inspiration from somewhere? Do you think of these things yourself, or do you take a lot of stuff from the films and what have you?
Yeah, I guess I mean, sometimes it's like I'll come upstairs after tea, usually when I do some of my photography. You know, usually I've had 20 minutes, half an hour. So I'm trying to come up with something. I might have a think about it during the day. Think, what could I do
Yeah,
today? But I haven't got an idea. I haven't got a clue. You know, if something new's arrived, it's easy because that kind of, you know, inspires you. If I've had something new come through, sometimes it's what I've watched. So I mean, last year I did quite a bit with Return of the Jedi. We were getting a lot of new stuff, but I was watching it. I watched it 3 or 4 times probably last year as well,
yeah,
with it being the anniversary. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Sometimes you get inspired by other photography you see online. You know,
yeah.
you know, on Instagram there's an awful lot of photographers out there, and sometimes you get, you know, you get an idea from that maybe of something you could do. There's a guy called, I don't know if you've encountered him, he'd be great on My Click Live, Toys of the Way. I'm not sure if you've had him on. He does some absolutely brilliant stuff, some brilliant dioramas. His whole collecting room is set out as a sort of a diorama, different
Oh,
diorama.
really?
And there's a video on YouTube he put on around Christmas time, and he does a massive tour of it. And there's so much, and his stuff's really inspirational. He mixes things up. He does
Yeah.
he customs stuff and things like that as well. But he was recently on Victoria's Cantina as well. He was recently,
Okay.
and it really
Okay. I think that the name rings a bell. I think the
yeah,
name
yeah,
rings a bell for
definitely,
sure.
definitely
Yeah.
worth having a look at his YouTube. Some of his stuff's fantastic. He does great photos with posed new figures, and he uses a turntable. And
Okay.
that's the next little like bit of kit I'm thinking maybe of getting with the photography, because it just adds a
Yeah.
different way of saying, oh, I've got this, and you know, he does some great poses, and you know, it'll fade between different poses with the same figure. You know, he did one for the new Darth Vader, and some of those absolutely fantastic poses.
Okay. Cool. I'll have to look into that. So I understand that you are going to NEC Toy Fair in April.
I'm hoping to, yeah. I mean, yeah. At the moment, it's penciled in. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Because my next question was, if you could go to any convention in the world, which one would it be and why?
Oof. Gosh, good question. Star Wars Celebration, possibly. Although it was massive queues, wasn't it? I think, you know, it seems
Yeah,
like a
just
lot.
a bit. Yeah, yeah. A
And
little
and
bit
I was
busy.
watching all you guys talk about it. And I think it was more the social side of it
Oh, yeah.
than other things that you got out of it. I mean, I love the idea. It was Gary Moore got into the Andor room where they gave a presentation. And they showed a mini trailer for the second season of Andor, and
Yeah,
and he shared that on Tim's Discord.
yeah,
And I must have watched that 20 times. It was absolutely fantastic. So I like the idea of seeing something new. I went to a few Star Trek conventions when I was sort of in my late teens. You know, and I used to quite like that. You know, you'd be dashing around to see new episodes of, you know,
yeah.
something that was going to be in the UK. I remember seeing the two-part of the Best of Both Worlds with the Borg.
Oh, what an episode that was. They were great, weren't they?
Absolutely awesome. So I saw that on a big screen at a convention in Sheffield, sort of
Oh,
about
wow.
a year before my best friend, and I just came back to college, I think on the Monday, telling him about this, and I was just telling him about this story for like the next year until the BBC show. So I quite like that idea. So yeah, something like Star Wars Celebration might be good. I'm looking forward to the NEC. I've been many years ago. I'm not
Mm,
much for. I'm not really much for meeting celebrities or getting autographs. It's not particularly my bag, and they're massively
yeah.
expensive now, aren't they?
Oh my God. Yeah, they are. I mean, look, when we went to Celebration, myself and Georgie, I think it was last year, wasn't it? We solely went for the experience of meeting up with like all sorts of different like people like Scuba
Yeah,
Pete and Gary Moore, Tim, Nick from Only One. So we managed to meet up with all those people and like many more, which was just fantastic. But when we went in 2016, it was a whole different experience for the fact that we didn't really know anybody within the community. So we were just there on our own sort of thing.
yeah,
And we were doing our own thing. So we went and queued up to meet people like Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, you know, because these are people that we've, you know, grown up with. And these were our heroes as kids. And I've got to say,
no,
they were probably two of the nicest people that we've ever met. They were absolutely
that
amazing. The way they conducted themselves with the with us and everybody else, they were just absolutely immense. And but yeah, expensive. And I've got a couple of regrets. I had the opportunity to it was at an MCM, and it was again at the Excel Centre in London, and I had a chance to get Patrick Stewart's autograph
Look
and
fantastic.
Leonard Nimoy's autograph. And
Oh,
I remember going at the time thinking, £80? Oh, that's a bit expensive. Not this old boy. £80? That's a steal compared to what the prices
man.
are these days. I
Oh,
wish to
Leonard
God
Nimoy is-
I would have just put my hand in my pocket
I know.
and got those two guys' autograph. I've
Yeah,
been kicking myself ever since.
I'm sure they'd have both been absolutely charming to meet as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Patrick Stewart is just a fantastic
Uh,
actor. Anyway,
he's,
I love what he does. I mean, I know he's done
he's
Picard, but
top.
he's done all sorts of different
Yeah.
roles, and I know he does a lot of stage work. But Leonard Nimoy, I think he was such an intelligent guy. He really was, and I think he's absolutely fantastic as well.
Yeah, he's a spectacular human being, really, wasn't he, Leonard Nimoy?
Yeah,
He was just absolutely awesome in every way. I think.
yeah,
You know, he struggled with his own demons, but he was just absolutely fantastic. But what he brought to that role of Spock just sort of
yeah,
changed Star Trek and science fiction. I mean, there were executives saying, you can't have this guy who looks like a devil, on our
yeah,
show,
yeah.
and he turned that. And I just think what they did, those three characters in the original series, just were absolutely awesome. They're three brilliant actors who played off each other really, really well.
Oh yeah, I mean the chemistry between the three of them was
Yeah,
superb, and when you look back now, as cheesy as it is, you've got to take you got to look at it and think there's such a romance to that, isn't there? Because it's just
yeah,
for the time it was beautifully played, and they did it so well. And I remember seeing the pilot episode of Star Trek, the black and white with Christopher Pike, and I thought
yes,
it just seemed so wooden, Leonard Nimoy, but over the years he just actually eased into that part, and he was just absolutely fantastic. I don't go much for their singing, but him and Shatner, but I don't know
oh,
if you've heard any of those. Have you heard
oh
those?
yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds that Shatner
Yeah,
did.
yeah. It was
French,
you need to be smoking something to yeah, absolutely. But that was absolutely crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my only regret. Would you ever consider starting your own YouTube channel? Because you've grown into the community, like you say, with your collecting and watching everybody else. And I mean, I know this has been the first time that you've done anything like on YouTube. I mean, have you ever considered doing your own channel or not really?
I, I haven't really. I'm not sure what spin I'd have. I'm not sure what I'd do. I see people come along and do new things. I absolutely love the long time ago guys.
Yeah, they're great guys as well. Yeah, yeah,
aren't they lovely guys, and they do something really
absolutely.
fresh, something different. So I was thinking, what would I do? I'm not sure what I'd do. I think for me, I like the Instagram. I think I'm enjoying this, and I think if I was invited on things, that'd be the next thing I'd be open to doing, I
Yeah.
suppose. But if it evolved into something else, I would never rule it out. But there's a bit of thing about having the time. I mean, we're talking about having the time to do these things. It's
Well,
sure.
yeah, it is time consuming. Like we were chatting, touching on it, weren't we, before we started recording?
Yeah.
It's definitely time consuming. I will say that. Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize how time consuming it would be, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but
But
it must be immensely rewarding as well, though, to get to meet
it is.
people.
Listen, I do it for the fun of it. I do it because, especially this series, because I enjoy chatting to people like yourself. I enjoy
Yeah.
seeing other people's collections, how they display it. Everything like that intrigues me and interests me. I'm curious as to know their childhood memories, whether they're the same as mine. And I think I find that a lot with people my own age. But then again, it would be great to get some younger generation people on as well, because because they were like collecting different things. I mean, they were collecting like stuff in the 90s and stuff like that. By that time, I'd pretty much grown out of toys and stuff. So it's good to hear their take on things as well. And I don't get too many sort of like young whippersnappers on the channel, so to speak. It's predominantly people my own age, which is
I suppose
the
it's difficult
demographic. But hey, listen, it's all good.
to reach out and find them, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Oh, right. Where were we? Yeah. So, okay, we're coming up to the hour.
Wow.
I've got another couple of questions for you.
Brilliant.
What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
New announcements, something that I'm excited about, I suppose. When the postman knocks the door and there's the parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I think sort of exploring when you get something new, exploring it, thinking how I can use it in my photography, or in a diorama, or how it's going to expand my display. I
Yeah.
I get a bit of a buzz from you know the community engagement with it. I think the way the community gets excited, sometimes you think, oh, I'm not that excited about that, and then you'll watch someone talking about it, listen to someone talking about it, and think, oh, actually, that is a bit more exciting. Like I'm changing my opinions on this new Cassian Andor figure, because a lot of people saying what a brilliant facial likeness it is. I'm thinking, okay, I'll probably pick that up at some point, rather than being a bit obstinate and saying, no, I'm definitely not buying it, Hasbro. I'm going to sit this one out. But
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, no, go on.
No, I think that's probably where the buzz comes from. I think probably for most of us, I mean, as you know, here we don't get to do much in the way of toy hunting. I've started watching G-Force recently, wandering around Walmarts and Targets, and we just don't get that. I mean, I'll pop into the B&M, or I'll pop in. We've got a Smith's near us, but there's never anything in there. There's less now than there was even a year ago.
That is the most disappointing thing, isn't it? When you sit and watch people like G-Force or Shabby, and they go to places like Ollie's or what's the other one, Ross's, or even Target and Walmart, the amount of selection that they get compared to what we get over in the UK is absolutely, unless you're Baz Dark Liking up in Scotland, he's got a magic store that just magically has everything, and he's just coming back with loads of stuff. That guy, fair play to him. But I'm like you. I get disappointed when I walk into like an Entertainer or a Smith's, or even somewhere like Game or HMV. They just don't seem to have much at all, and it's
considering what they used to be. I mean, I regret those days in the Entertainer where there used to be a lot more on the pegs there. I went in a couple of weeks ago. I did pick up a retro figure, like one of the Obi-Wan Kenobi retro figures. The what is he? The Fifth Brother, I think. Because we haven't got him in TVC yet, so I think he'll do as a placeholder. So he was £4, so I thought,
fair enough.
But there was nothing else there really that I wanted. They've still got old figures from Rogue One, 5.
I know, going for peanuts.
It's desperately sad, really, to see that's what it's become. So
is that because people aren't buying them, Scott? Is it because people aren't kids aren't interested in getting them?
Presumably, it must be, because I mean, for a business like the Entertainer or Smiths, that's all it's about. They're not interested in supporting toy lines or Hasbro or Mattel or anyone. They just want on the pegs what sells. I know that the Entertainer picks stuff up that's going cheap as well, stuff that's not sold elsewhere.
Yeah,
get up and sell it through their stores. So there could be a bit of that this is stuff that's not sold.
But even our discount stores, they don't have the selection that they do, like in the Ross discount store or the Ollie's discount store. I mean, they've got figures there that are going for dirt cheap, and there's a massive selection. It's just crazy.
I watched a video that G-Force did, and he picked up Lola, the animatronic Lola, which was he said it was about $85 originally, for $5. I got it before Christmas. I got one for my grandsons, and I got one for myself. They were only £17 from. I think that was the Entertainer, and that was down from about 80. That was pretty good. But the stuff.
How can it go from £80 down to $17 or $5? That is just a ludicrous amount of money to lose out on. Surely,
it shows you what the actual value of making the toy is, I suppose, because they must have those discounts built in of potentials, mustn't they? That must be.
They've got to.
But they've got to expect that some are going to go to discount, and they must have. So I don't know, but it must be because people aren't buying it, and therefore, if people aren't buying it, then they're not going to have it. Isn't that what people are saying in Smiths, that they're just not stocking it anymore because people aren't buying it?
Yeah. I went to Smiths in over Crawley Way down near Gatwick, and I've been there a couple of times, and the amount of Star Wars and Motu they had was just incredible. And I like coming here. Yeah. So we went back one weekend, and there was absolutely nothing. And I was like, where's it gone? So I saw a member of staff, and I said, where's your Motu gone? Where's your Star Wars Black Series and Star Wars Vintage? Oh, people weren't buying it, so we don't bother getting it in now. Like, what? Because it goes on discount. And I'm just, good God, absolutely crazy. I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm one of these guys who likes to find something in a toy store or going to a toy fair and finding something. I get stuff offline for convenience, but I'd rather go and find it out in the real world. Do you know what I mean?
There's still some excitement in that, I think, isn't there?
Yeah.
get out and you see something and get it that way. That's why I'm, you know, pretty keen to try and get to the NEC. We only live in Telford, so it's not far to get to the NEC. But there's not a lot else near us. There's no proper toy shops anywhere near us. There's no specialist toy shops. I think the nearest Forbidden Planets, there might be one in Wolverhampton, but definitely Birmingham. But they're not near. So yeah, I think the NEC. You know, I'm looking to try and build up my original '96 collection.
Yeah.
Not expensive, not mint, but I'd like to get at least an example of everything. You know, probably barring Yak Face maybe, but I'd like to try and get an example of all of them eventually.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm quite a lot of the way there. I picked up a few in the last year or so, but you know, obviously still got a lot of my originals as well. But so yeah, the idea of hunting, if I find something that, you know, that I didn't have as a kid, that seems quite exciting. And watching everyone's videos from Sandown, you know, it looks like that's going to be possible. There's some reasonably priced stuff that can be found in a
Sandown was great. I mean, it's not a bad toy fair, and you know, it's like a lot of people go to that as well, like people within the community and stuff. So that's always a good toy fair. And NEC again, that's incredible as well. I mean, they've, you know, a lot of vendors that we know are going to it and stuff like that. So it's always a good day. Why they have it on a Sunday, I do not know. I cannot get my head around that. It just baffles me. Why not have it on the Saturday?
Yeah, it always seems to be a Sunday, doesn't it? They used to, I used to go about 20 years ago. I think I don't know if it's the same thing, but they used to call it Memorabilia Fair.
Yeah, I remember Memorabilia. Yeah,
and there'd be lots of people there signing. You know, people from you know, films and Castor Grange Hill and people like that were there. The ones.
Oh, Luke Reynolds was there, was he?
Yeah, Luke.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Luke. But yeah.
Yeah, they were always a Sunday, which is quite inconvenient, really.
Yeah, I don't get it. But I mean, it's going to be a big meetup this time around. It's only a few. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's about a month or so away, isn't it? There's going to be a big meetup. So Chris Miwa from Chasing 80 Toys is going.
Really?
You've got Scuba Pete going. You've got Simanga Fadanga. There's loads of people, and you know, I'll probably not going to be able to mention them all, but yeah, there's a lot. The usual gang are going. Yeah,
I'm hoping I can bump into some people. Yeah, it'd be great.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Yeah. I mean, we all sort of like congregate in the cafe and have like a little point of operations where we sort of like come and see. I mean, if it's anything like Celebration last year, it will be pretty cool, as in like just the meet and the people there and stuff like that. So it's going to be.
If we all have like a ZSR badge on or something, so we can recognise each other in the crowd.
Okay, so I've got one more question for you. What gives you? Oh, I've already asked that question, haven't I? Okay, I'll ask another one. What does your collection mean to you?
Oh gosh, well, it's a bit of escapism, I suppose, from daily life. Great to get away. Although I work from home a bit, so it's kind of around me whilst working as well.
Yeah.
It's escapism. It's something. It becomes something social. I like the fact even that, you know, that I'm interacting online with people. I'm quite enjoying that aspect of it. It's the photography is it's kind of a new thing for me as well. So that's quite good. But I think it's, for a lot of us around this age, there's some nostalgia in there, isn't there? Reminiscing about, you know, halcyon days of the 80s when we were all kids growing up in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to look back on that and reflect on it. And yeah, I think a lot of it's that. It's not about. I don't collect for what things are worth in the future. I don't. Not too worried about mint or on card or value of things. I collect what I want and do what I want with it, really, I suppose.
Well, no, absolutely. I've said loads of times, it's personal preference. There's no right way of collecting. There's no wrong way of collecting. However you choose fit to collect is what's best for you at the end of the day and what you enjoy. So, nothing wrong with that at all.
But you pick up ideas from other people in the community as well, like that. You know,
you do, yeah.
I've got about 6 or 7 figures now that I've kept on card and put into plastic cases, and I haven't got a lot of room to keep doing that. But that odd special figure, you know, I can see, you know, when you see somebody's wall, you see like Tim's wall or Only One's wall or something, or Martin's room. Is just
I've got to say they are pretty impressive displays, aren't they? The 3 guys that you've just mentioned, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I could if I had the space, I'd probably end up with a room like that as well. But I think Steph might kill me if I was to
Yeah.
was to
You
do
see, when I
that.
see people like Nick and Tim and Martin, I always think, why don't I just collect one line? But then I see other people's collections and think, oh, yeah, I like that and I like that. And a big influence for me was a guy called Robo. He was from the Foosh, but he does his own channel now,
Yeah,
which is Robo Don't Know. And he's absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. And
right.
some of the things that he collects, he's predominantly 6 inch. He doesn't collect 3 3/4 inch.
Oh, right.
And he, I've taken so much inspiration from him, just how he collects and stuff like that. We never really see much of his collection, but his reviews and stuff like that. And he does a weekly rewind on a Saturday morning and stuff like
Yeah,
that. It's just absolutely brilliant. And, Shabby again, another one with his Motu, Chris Miwa. All these people have sort of influenced me in a certain way of collecting. And that's why I probably don't just collect one toy line and stick to
yeah.
Star Wars, which
I
is what
can.
I intentionally wanted to do.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard. I'm allowing myself to stray a little bit into Transformers at the minute, but
yeah,
I could see picking up just the odd thing from elsewhere, because you watch other people, you watch the joy that people are getting out of collecting some of these other lines, the excitement people have got around some of the new Motu stuff that's coming out. I mean, I never had Masters of the Universe as a kid, so just didn't happen, just didn't get it for whatever reason. I
yeah.
don't.
It's definitely a fun line to collect. It's a
Yeah,
huge line to collect.
they look
It really
fantastic.
is, but it's just great. It looks great. It displays well.
Yeah, they're so colourful, and yeah, they
Yeah,
are great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I'm just weak-willed. That's all it is. That's what that boils down to.
yeah,
Oh dear.
it's just minding the pennies, and there's enough at the moment. There's enough in the vintage collection to keep me
Yeah,
occupied, and occasionally picking up those OT items as and when I can, or going back, picking up some older figures that probably Hasbro are never going to look at doing again. So picking them up from some of the older lines as well. So
I mean, there's a lot of figures that they've not done, isn't there? Hasbro for TVC. I mean, there's some great figures that they've not done yet, and you
there's
just
so
you
much.
just wonder why they've not done them yet.
Yeah, the Cantina aliens, I mean, they've barely scratched the surface with them. They've got to be thinking about that. They've got to be looking at it. People are saying that it's probably going to be one of the next HasLabs over the next years, especially with the 50th
Mm,
anniversary of Star Wars coming up. Maybe we'll see a Cantina HasLab, but there's a big commitment then to them populating that, because to go back and find some of those figures that were out 10, 15, 20 years ago from the
yeah,
Cantina, they're so expensive to find, even loose, or you just can't find them in some
yeah,
cases. They're just not about. I mean, looking on eBay or something, they're just really prohibitively expensive if you can find them most of the time. So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
they need to look at that. But as they say, it's a balance for them. They've probably got Lucasfilm and Disney saying we want you doing more of this because that's what we're showing, and you've got older people like us saying we want more Cantina aliens.
Yeah, yeah. It just baffles me. I don't. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. And it's Hasbro are kind of like under the thumb, aren't they? Really, of Disney and Lucasfilm. I guess they're just supplying their figures and stuff. And
Yes, they've got to be, and their budget. I feel a bit sorry for the guys sometimes who do the live streams and
oh,
interviews.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I
for
do
one, they're
sympathise with
they're
them.
not natural presenters, are they? They're not.
No.
They don't always do the best job of it. But sometimes they just look embarrassed themselves with what they're revealing. It's
Well,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I met them at Celebration last year,
oh
and
yeah,
they seem nice enough people. And at the
mm,
end of the day, they're doing a job, and they're the face of Hasbro,
yeah,
aren't they? These guys don't make those decisions. They get
no,
thrown in at the deep end and thrown into the fire to deal
yeah.
with people like us and the community. And yeah, it's
Well, they're the creatives, aren't they? They're the ones creating the stuff.
yeah.
They probably got lots more exciting ideas than repainting Mandalorians and re-releasing Finns. I'd have
Well, they've
thought.
got to work with what they can work with, I guess. They
Yeah,
like you say, they're given a budget, and that's all they can do, isn't
yeah,
it? Which
definitely.
is a shame. But anyhow, Scott, my friend, that has come to the end of the conversation. I've got to say, it's been absolutely marvelous chatting to you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much. I really appreciate you taking the
yeah. I've
time out to
enjoyed
do this.
it. It's been great to meet you and great to have a chat as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram.
It-
Yeah, pretty much just on Instagram, really. But I've got a Facebook, but that's just sort of friends and family.
Okay, no worries.
So,
Well, what I do is I will leave a link to your Instagram
brilliant.
page in the description below.
Yeah.
I've got to say, for someone who's first time doing this, I thought you did a great job.
Oh, thanks,
You
mate.
come across really well. You spoke really well. Yeah, awesome stuff. You're a natural, Scott. You're a
Oh,
natural.
thanks, mate. I might do this
That's
again.
okay. That's okay. Absolutely awesome. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of those who've watched and stayed to the end. Really do appreciate you watching. Always appreciate your support. This has been Mr. Scott Whitehouse. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.